Welcome to Surf Dudes with Attitude, a podcast about California dreams. This is Pete out of New York City. Welcome back. How you doing, George?
I am great. In Hershey, Pennsylvania, I am George Howell. What's new with you?
Oh, well, just went down to Nashville, went to visit Zach, and he's not here, so he can't corroborate that, but that's okay. We did a lot of really fun stuff for the podcast. There's one special thing that we did but we're going to save that to the end of the season. And then we got to watch an episode in person. It was so strange seeing where Zach usually does his recording, where the magic happens, the studio magic, and Mallory came on again for the episode. It was a real hoot and a holler.
Perhaps you can confirm. I heard rumors that when Zach is at home, all he wears is cowboy boots with nothing else.
No, he has a fringe jacket as well. But other than that, just shit-kicking cowboy boots and a smile. That's it. Like, no chaps, assless or not. He's just letting it all hang out. And he's just like, this is what we do down here. We're not allowed to dress and drag, but nobody said anything about just Porky Pig in it with cowboy boots on.
I knew it. I knew it.
But we watched a banger of an episode. This last episode was really fun for anybody who's following along. What was the last episode called? George, you weren't there for us, but it was Save the Shark. Okay, and Sharky's is going under. Some evil developer comes to town, and he's got a hot famale daughter that, of course, is in the mix. There was a ghost in the episode. George,
It's always those evil developers, man. Like the amount of times that I've almost lost Waning Moon to evil developers, it's ridiculous. They've got to be stopped.
I'll be honest, man. We've known each other since we were 13 and 14 years old, basically. I always thought you would grow up to be an evil developer. You have that energy through and through. Like if it's not middle management, it's like, oh, I'm going to screw over this small business, and I'm going to take up a Native American land while I do it. No offense.
It's probably why I've never been successful as an independent businessman, because I've never been willing to screw over the little guy.
Yeah, well, if you were given a little bit of power, that might change. But listen, in Zach's stead this week, we have brought on a very fun past guest. To be honest, we conferred and we felt awful that we gave him the episode that we did. So we want to redeem ourselves by giving him a decent California Dreams episode, and this was it. So I want to welcome back Billy Shinker. Hello, Billy. Thanks for coming back.
Hey guys, thanks for having me back.
Billy, are you relieved to hear that other than Zach Porky Pigging it with a fringe jacket and cowboy boots, that no other cowboy boots will be mentioned during this episode?
100%. I mean, I'm like maybe 2% disappointed that there are no cowboy boots, because that was a fun episode. But this was a good one too. So
Billy's he's very much a Pollyanna about all this. Billy tombstoned it with us last time for the Old West episode, the High Plains Dreamer episode 8, and that was rough. It was not a good episode, but Billy took it in stride and he came on last minute, and so we're like, hey, guess what? There's another episode. It's got your name written all over it. We want to have you back.
And Billy was our Huckleberry.
He was. I mean, there was a couple episodes ago that you could have provided some insight that the California Dreams try to record an album, and they have basically just a power cable in there, and then two mics that go nowhere, like two cords that don't go into any mic. So, and then they're very surprised that nothing recorded on their album. But that's not until after they mass produce it, get a kiosk, make the album art. So this all happened in the span of a day.
So there was no mastering engineer.
I guess there was no mixing either. They just like recorded it, and then they started like looping and taping it. These kids are nothing but resilient, but that's neither here nor there. George, do you want to tell people where they can find us if they're return listeners here at Surf Dudes with Attitude?
I do. You can find everything related to the show at the in the process of being designed, newly redesigned, surfdudeswithattitude.com. You can find the way to support us on Patreon at californiadreams.com. Do want to shout out to
californiadreamspodcast.com.
californiadreamspodcast.com.
You
were
the
correct.
Actual californiadreams.com. Yes.
Yeah, that probably goes to Carrie. Sorry, I'm now making a really bad joke and shitting all over it. Katy Perry is what I was going to say. Probably goes to her site or some bullshit like that.
Do you think do you think she knows about California Dreams? Do you think at some point when she was writing that song and putting it out and doing that tour, that somebody was like, "Okay, you're like young, you should know that there was an iconic show that men in their 30s and 40s love to talk about"?
I will neither confirm nor deny that she is a Patreon subscriber. But I do want to give a shout out to Liz and Michelle that have been Patreon subscribers since the beginning. Mm-hmm. So thank you both for your support. You truly make this happen.
Yeah, they were the first two. And now we've just got a whole bunch more. But we're not going to forget about the old guard there, keeping watch
since
over
the beginning. So special shout out to Liz and Michelle. But again, californiadreamspodcast.com if you want to support the show. And you can write to us at surfdudeswithattitude@gmail.com.
That's right. .biz, baby. This was, I think I knew what I was in for when this episode came up in the liner notes. Just based on the title alone, I was pretty excited that we were going to get kind of a dense episode with a lot of silly shit. And when I say silly, I don't mean dream silly. I mean really dancing that fine line of reality silly. And I think they did it in this episode. I got a couple chuckles out of this. It was really good. But I mean, are you ready to get into this, Billy?
Let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. I love this episode.
Did you remember that was our catchphrase?
I did not.
But for real, we usually make the guest say it, and you just knew it based on this. This is your second episode of California Dreams. So give me just a brief overview of what you thought of it. I had a murmur that you said you liked this one. You liked it more than the first one, obviously, that you saw.
I think I would give them I would say this gets a 85 grade. The other one gets a 55 or 65. Okay,
wow. I mean, but this one is actually about a band.
Yeah, no, we actually but we got a song. We got a pretty cool song.
Dude. I mean, I don't want to spoil too much, but this is easily their best song.
Really? Oh man, that's sick.
Oh, yeah. This is honestly their best song. I listened to this song twice because I was at first I had to find the name of it, which I found, but then I was like, "Fuck, is this catchy?"
It is.
It's got different parts. It's got a bass solo. It's got tapping.
It's got Jake. Yeah,
it's a really great energy. It's got a little cool keyboard synth sound too that I haven't heard out of Sam yet, and it's got stick clicks from Tony. We're gonna get there, everybody. But this is not on any of the releases, and I'm like, why the fuck not? This is what you should lead with. This is a better theme song than California Dreams.
It would have done perfect. People would, not that people don't remember it, but a lot more people would remember it if that song was the intro song.
Yes. I mean, you change around the lyrics. This is obviously, I think it's called She's Not You or something like that. It's always about lost love with these kids. They can't keep a relationship. And this episode explains us why. So without further ado, this episode is called 21 Jake Street. This is the 14th episode of season 2. Again, we're almost done. The episode is a bit messed up. We have a couple more episodes till they get corrected. But you know what? That obviously doesn't even matter because this episode's all phooey. This episode could have been anywhere. But you know where it did land? This episode, Billy. I mean, not only in our hearts, collectively. This episode came out on December 25th, 1993. This
is their Christmas episode?
yeah, I guess Saturday was Christmas morning. So can you imagine? You could probably imagine me at 11 years old watching this episode on Christmas Day after opening presents. That is fucking bonkers to me that it's even an option. I just, it wasn't even a Christmas themed episode. You know why they can't do a Christmas themed episode? Because there's no fucking family in this anymore to speak of.
Yeah, none of them are related at all at this point, right?
No.
Yeah. Tiffany's not like Zach's sister.
I mean, let's hope not. But like, no, nobody's related. Sam lives in Jenny's old room. That was you didn't meet Jenny, but Jenny was Matt's sister. Jenny leaves to go to Rome. The next episode, Sam is living in her room and is this new singer of the band. So she's a foreign exchange student. So sort of Matt's adopted stepsister. They could still get it on if that's what you're getting on.
Yeah,
that's what you're getting to.
Yeah.
No,
there seems to be some weird chemistry between them in a way.
You know what? I don't remember all of this show, so it's possible that they do hook up at one point. But you know what? Matt's gone in a couple episodes, so they're gonna have to fucking hurry this shit up if that's gonna happen. You know,
man, it's not happening, man. That sucks.
That's
they had a great opportunity, you know,
but a finite amount of time. So anyway, we're going to start this episode in the hallway. This season is heavy on the schooling, and I don't think that's going to let up whatsoever. Yes, and Matt and Tony are taking an art class, and their gags are so cringy, especially these like opening gambits are so cringy, but I guess they're looking for models for their art project. My question, Billy, is this like the first day of a new semester?
It kind of feels like it. It feels like it.
They just got a new. I don't know if they said they probably maybe had a throwaway line, but they maybe said this new like unit in art class is for us to find models. Maybe that would say it, but then there's also like a new student situation. So I'm like, maybe it's a new semester.
Yeah.
I'm thinking too much about this. So, but they're looking for models.
Too deep.
And again, we don't know how long this week goes on. It's a lot. It's a lot. You'll find out later that like this week is like a fortnight.
Yeah.
So, so the first, right off the bat, there's this hot fly honey that walks by who looks like she's 30 years old, and they're like, oh, this Abraham Lincoln over here. And so all four guys are drooling over her, and Tiffany even says, let's go before we get drowned by drool. So her and Jake not together in this episode. What do you think about that?
I was very confused by that because I watched the last episode and I was like, aren't they together?
They are.
And then he just like throws her away with drool or drowns her and drowns her in his drool.
I'm not sure if they were together the last episode, but they were the episode before. So it's really whenever the plot kind of calls for it, and that's annoying and obnoxious. But it just means that you can watch these kind of like a monster of the week episode. Like it doesn't really matter where you kind of pipe in, but when it calls for it, and you need a bad boy to be attracted to a girl, here's Jake. You know. Yeah. So they're all going to shoot their shot with her. Jake hangs back, and then she doesn't like it. She's this girl Michelle. She is very specifically looking for something. You know what that's like when you just want a bad boy. You don't want to take these dorks. And to her credit, she knew exactly what she was talking about because all the other three band members are dorks. You know,
and I mean they came up like the Three Stooges. Like they came up like lame Abbott and Costello.
What a lame ass old guy joke to make to a bunch of fucking like a teenage demographic. And Saved by the Bell would do that constantly too, where they would make some old white guy joke and like, who is this for? And you can see that when like Slater was like saying this really archaic, like obsolete, non-topical reference, he was like, what? And he's trying to sell it as best as he could. Like they would make an Abbott and Costello reference, because maybe there were parents watching, but no fucking kids would know who that is,
No.
So in this scene, Sly is like Googamoo, or I'm sorry, Tony is like Googamoo. That's his catchphrase. And I want to say, throughout this episode, we have all three catchphrases being said. Sly says ba-boom. Tony says Googamoo. And then Matt says, let's do it. So that's huge.
Yeah. That like you never get all three catchphrases from characters in a single episode. It's all spread out.
I mean, one would say it's hacky and shoehorned in, but that person would not be me. No, sirree.
No, not us. Not here on this podcast.
What did you think of Michelle? Did you buy it? I mean, we find out later that she's not who she says she is. Did she give any indication? Because I had a clue, but like, did you?
Like immediately.
Oh, okay.
Like she's looking for the bad boy. Like she looks 30. She like her outfit. The way she addresses them, she calls them the Three Stooges. Like that
she's 65 years old. That was what she watched as a kid.
Yeah,
that's true.
So like immediately, I was like, "There's no way she's a student."
I will say that she's actually she's 24 years old when she filmed this episode. She's one of those sneaky actresses that don't have their birth date on their IMDb profile because they like pay extra to take it off. But I found it. She was born in 1969, so she was 24, which is the age of some of these kids on the show too. So
yeah,
they all look above rank. Yeah. So I guess it sort of makes sense that she would blend in. Who knows? So anyway, she ditches the three guys and she goes over to Jake, and he's like, he's trying to be all suave. It's not working, but. She's like, I'm a little lost. He's like, well, consider yourself found, which is like, what a Jake line. Yeah. And then he's like, but then he said he's going to give her a grand tour of the school. I'm like, what could he possibly show her in this school? Outside of the one classroom that we've seen, we saw one auditorium. It's basically just the hallway and then maybe like an annex to Sharkey's. I think so, because we still don't know if Sharkey's is attached to the school. We think it is, though.
It's got to be. There's no way they travel that far of a distance in a short period of time.
Right. There's some underground railroad to Sharkey's, is what you're saying.
Maybe they teleport. Maybe they pulled some Star Trek stuff in.
So there's like a Brundlefly situation where they get crossbred. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that's wrong. So we go back. I guess this is the B plot. So we go to the garage. Matt and Tony have found their models in Sam and Tiff, of course, and Matt is getting ready to draw. Maybe Matt's an artist. He's a soft, quiet man. It's possible he can draw as well. There's lots of gifted musicians that draw. I'm not one of them. I wish I could. Do you partake in the fine arts at all, Billy?
I do pottery, ceramics, but not nothing.
So you related more to Tony in this scene,
for sure. Right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Not to Matt. That did not feel like if I tried painting something like that, it would come out horrendous.
You would just draw big boobies with like single dot nipples that were misshapen and abstract.
And colorful hair, just because why not?
Why not? You like old ladies with blue hair? Sure. You like old balding men with ED, isn't that right, Billy? That's what you said on the last episode.
On the last episode, yeah.
So I think that what else were they doing in this art class that they were so excited to do this finally? Do you think it was like they were drawing, I don't know, hands before this? Aren't hands pretty hard and now they get to work with the model? Do you think they're just so excited to work with a model because they think they're going to pose nude?
Yeah.
So, okay, well, because they just got Tiff and Sam, and basically their whole shtick in this is that Sam doesn't stop talking. Of course, that's always her shtick, and then Tiff is impatient. That's the other thing. They quickly give them traits that, it doesn't make sense for Tiff. She's a very patient, graceful person. I don't understand this, but we need to get this B plot moving along.
There's got to be some conflict with their art project,
Yeah, and I guess the conflict is that both Tony and Matt kind of suck at art, and they aren't taking it seriously. So I don't know if we just want to wrap up this whole plot because it doesn't mean anything. And we've done this before where we're just like, okay, and then this happens, and then we're done. We don't talk about it again. I don't really see. There's not much intertwining with these two plots. Sometimes they coalesce and they bounce off each other, but this one, I don't. Unless I'm mistaken, I don't think it does.
Only the
I guess it does. It does come together at the end at the art show.
Yeah.
Fuck, I guess it means we have to keep talking about it. So there, you won't know it, but they, what did Tiff say? She said, you're taking too long, Matt. They could fill in the Grand Canyon before you're done. Now, you don't know this, but on the first episode of this whole series, California Dreams, of the pilot, it's mentioned that their dad is a huge fan of the Grand Canyon. Like, one of the first times I laughed audibly at this show, not because it was funny, but because it was so dumb, was like Matt's dad wants to take everyone to the Grand Canyon, and oh no, it's their first gig. It's also the same night, and then so they have to decide not to go to the Grand Canyon. And then the mom says very poignantly, like, Matt, you know how much the Grand Canyon means to your dad, which is such a dumb line, which I want to get tattooed on me for real. So they make another Grand Canyon joke here. Do you think Matt was like missing his dead parents at this moment? And
yeah, he was having like some sort of PTSD moment. Like,
you understand,
we died in the Grand Canyon.
Well, no, we think Jake killed them so he could have a homosexual relationship with Matt. Jake is a family annihilator for somebody else. So nobody's proven us otherwise. He could have thrown them in the Grand Canyon. You're not wrong. We don't know how he killed them, but they
might have gone on like a family vacation, and
I mean, they took Dennis and never came back. So we're just supposed to believe they're like in the house when all this is going down. They're in the house at all times. You just don't know what's going on. I don't know if we ever see the kitchen now that the parents aren't around. We have seen it in the second season, but I have a feeling that's going to go the way of the dodo, as they say. So why did I write this down? I think there's a poster that said "Peace," backed by popular demand, and oh, what a time in the early 90s. What the hell was going on politically that like peace in the Middle East? We really thought that peace had just overflooded the world.
We were so bright-eyed and optimistic.
We took everything so for granted.
We were like, we have a president that plays the saxophone and gets high. It can't be worse than this. Like, this is fantastic.
Was Clinton a good sax player? I've heard people say he was like really middle.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure he was high the entire time, so I'm sure he wasn't.
I mean, he specifically said he didn't get high. Like, he smoked weed wrong, I mean, now looking back, he could have just
said,
a
lie.
Yes, I got stoned. Back then, we were so worried about a president who had smoked pot once in his life.
Yeah, now
look at us. President openly on cocaine. And I'm talking about Trump. For anybody who doesn't know what I'm talking about. It would kill Biden.
Yeah, exactly. That debate would have been a completely different show.
Yeah. So Sly comes in. He says, "Ba-boom." Second catchphrase. And he's like, "Guess what? I just got the Dreams a gig." I think he said Dizzy Leonard's Rock Club. Is that what it sounded like? I was like, Disney what? Yeah. But they wouldn't be allowed to say Disney. Dizzy Leonard's Rock Club. And then Matt, without missing a beat, he's such a fucking dork. He's like, "Oh, you can't play there. Well, it's the one and one." Like, He says it exactly like that too. In case you didn't watch the episode, he's such a killjoy, like buzzkill, goody two shoe, do gooder. It's so annoying. You're supposed to be like this rock star in the band. That's why you're being replaced by Jake. Because like you're not willing to take any chances.
I mean, he doesn't dress like Chris Cornell.
It doesn't.
I mean,
I noticed that. Yes.
Yeah.
He tucks his shirt in. He has like a French tuck in his shirt half the time.
Does he actually play guitar?
Okay, so he has been demoted back to keys a lot. And Sam is the lead singer. And she just sings. But the last 2 episodes that we've seen them play, Matt is back on guitar.
Okay.
So, and then Jake just does lead. Like he does some chords, but they're kind of bullshit. But he tries to nail all the leads. So I do want to say about what Matt was saying. Like they're not allowed in and not allowed to play. First of all, this club owner would have like checked out their stuff. I don't know how it worked back then. Maybe Sly had a tape that was actually recorded, gave it to him. He's like, "Yeah, that's the band I want. You know, it's your cousin Marvin Berry. Like, wait to hear this." But if they knew anything about anything, the California law. Okay, in case anybody was curious, about under 21, you can play at an establishment. There's a couple caveats. Basically, if you're between 18 and 21, 18 and 20, you're fine. You just can't drink. If you're under 18 and it's only a bar and they don't serve food, then you can play, but you have to stay on stage the whole time, but only if the stage is 3 feet or higher. Yeah. So it sounds weird, but it's like there basically has to be a 3-foot barrier, or it has to be at least like, it's something like 30 inches or something. So it's almost 3 feet blocking you from going anywhere else. Like there has to be corralled at some point. So, but yeah, if it serves food there, it's basically a restaurant you can play. So let's say it is a bar and they're 17. As long as there's some kind of stage apparatus, they should have been fine. And plus, it was the fucking early 90s. Like nobody gave a shit.
Seriously. Like every teenager was getting drunk at that point.
I mean,
the 90s.
I get it. We need a plot. Everyone stop writing me. I get it. Okay. Like Saved by the Bell did this exact same thing. There wasn't a band involved, but there was a fake ID plot, you know, where they go to the attic, you know, and Zach meets an older girl. Whereas like the statutory rape in this episode is just like, okay, it's totally cool. Cause like guy's good looking. So
they didn't say anything about it. Like,
yeah,
come on.
Well, I mean, yeah, we're going to get there, but Matt is somehow convinced. Why is Matt convinced? Because they're going to pay? I genuinely forget.
I didn't hear anything about pay. Yeah, no, yeah, it was a paid gig.
Yeah. Well,
that's why.
So basically, Sly says we can get fake IDs, no big deal, and we'll get paid. So I got a question of how much they're paying for these fake IDs. That's important to know because that's going to cut into whatever cost. I mean, fake IDs you should supposedly, you know, use more than once. Did you have a fake ID? You're still like, no? You're from Florida. You guys
exactly. You don't need a fake ID.
You guys just get drunk with an alligator and you just snort bath salts. You don't even need to go to a club. No, like you did your friends have a fake ID?
I think I knew like 1 or 2 people, like personally knew 1 or 2 people in high school that had them. I know there were more kids, like the popular kids.
So when they had fake IDs, was it their photo or did they get somebody that looked like them?
Like a lot of the time it was like an older sibling.
Okay.
And they would take like their older sibling's photo and use that.
Yeah, if the ID wasn't expired or something, they could use that. But again, even back then they didn't have scanners back then.
There weren't barcodes on the backs of the IDs. You know, there was nothing.
It's just a note from your mom that said it's cool if you come home drunk.
Yeah.
It's just it sucks because I've never drank, so I never had a fake ID. So I was constantly curious of the people that did because it just seems like a rite of passage that I didn't get to go through. And I was managing a bar for a couple of years, and we had this really young bar back. and I think she was like 19 or 20 or something. So again, you can work in a bar if you're under 21. There's just some caveats. But I asked her, I was like, yo, you have to have a fake ID, right? She like kind of reluctantly showed me. I was like, I'm not a cop. I like lift my shirt up and like spin around. I'm like not wearing a wire. And she showed me and I was like, this looks nothing like you. And she's like, nobody gives a fuck. Like as long as it scans now, like it's even less bad. She said one dude was like, "This isn't you," but then he let her through anyway. So I was like, "Oh, what a life," you know. And then I had another friend who's like, I went to meet the person finally because like I had her ID for 3 years, and then I finally found this person because we were in the same city, and I was like, I just have to buy you a drink for helping me get into so many fucking establishments.
So they went to a bar and she used her fake ID with the girl that's right next to her.
Yeah,
and they're like, "Yeah, come on."
At that point, she was of age, so they had a good laugh about it. But anyway, so Matt says, "Let's do it" for the first time because he's like, "Let's do the gig," and then Jake comes in, barging his way in, and he's like, "Hey, told Michelle about the dreams. We're gonna fucking rehearse." And I was like, this doesn't seem like how a rehearsal is going to go. And Matt's like, no, we got schoolwork to do, like a fucking dweeb. And then Jake does his like angry dude thing, and he exerts his toxic masculinity. And then they're like, okay, let's do it. So then we get a forced let's do it. So, but I'm still calling it. It's 3 catchphrases at once. I'm happy. And then the song. It counts. So after Jake forces rehearsal, then we get this song. And like we said at the top of the episode, the song fucking rocks. The song is so good. I think it's called like She's Not the One.
Yeah.
It's basically just about like getting a new girl and her not being as cool as the last girl, which we can all relate to. This song starts with like a cool like descending lick that kind of comes out in the song like later. It's good. It's fucking good. And I'm so surprised. There's like Dutch angles on the bass and stuff. There's a lot of gonzo shots in this. It looked really like cool. It was like handheld and it was like tilted and it's real fun. This is not like their normal shit. And I was so very 90s.
It was so 90s feeling.
But like I would like listen to this song. Like it would be like I listen to cheesy stuff. I would put this on a playlist. But like Jake is like going at it, and I get it because there's a girl there. Jake's always cheesing it up and hot dogging, but this time especially because he's got a lot of like heavy lifting with this stuff, and he's doing some like harmonics in this song.
Yeah, too. Yeah. He like goes and solos and sits next to her and does his tapping. Like that was he was like just totally showboating and like
that solo was cool. Like it was a slide solo, and it was fucking rad. And I about pooped my pants when I saw Tiffany get a bass solo. Now, let's talk about it. It's quick. Tony's just on the stick clicks, which is cool. I would have gone rim shots, but it's me.
You know,
this is definitely a body double doing the bass because those notes are correct, but you don't see Tiffany do them. And I don't know if it was a guy or a girl doing it, but like the hands were different. And like just rhythm that we've never seen come from the bass side, and I was just real excited. And then it comes back later in the song, but it's like the synth version, and I was like, "Fuck!"
But that synth bass is like still underneath that bass line.
It's
really low in the mix, but it's there, and it just like gives it so much texture and like a great full sound. And that solo was sick.
It was.
Yeah. For like a TV show for like, high schoolers coming home in the 90s.
I got worried when he first started the song. It was just on a D chord, and Matt loves the fucking D chord. And I was like, oh no, what are they going to fucking play? And then I was like, what? This is cool. Matt was pretty on. He missed one of the pre-choruses where it goes from G to A. He missed that, but he was just so into it that it was okay. And then he did this really cringy point at the very end. So I was like, okay, all right. Like, she's not the one, she's not you, or whatever the line was. So
yeah, and he like pointed at her.
It's a little weird he's pointing to her where it should be Jake pointing to her. But this girl is horning in on Jake and Matt's relationship. So I could see him being a little upset about it, being like, "I see what you're doing."
Like, no hot dogging.
This is bratwurst summer. That's what it is. Sorry. So we're gonna go to Sharky's, and you didn't see it, but last episode Sharky's was almost sold. There was literally a wrecking ball outside. Sharky's was like everything was taken out in the middle, and then they somehow convinced the new owner that they love Sharky's so much he can't tear it down, but also that a celebrity played there, so now it's a historical landmark. But Sharky himself went to Hawaii, and they just wrote him out of the show. We never see Sharky again. So who is running this place?
It's got to be the homeless guy down the street. He just really loves the kids. And
He's got the real entrepreneurial spirit, that guy. He knows. He does know the location better than everybody.
Yeah.
He put in the most time.
He knew who that celebrity was way before anyone else did.
Okay. Bob Cratchit came in. Saved the day. Jesus, man.
Mr. Stone, right? That was his name.
That was his name. Good for you for noticing that. So in this, Jake meets Michelle for a date, and then Michelle's she's really being prying about needing a fake ID as well, you know, and Jake's like, okay, whatever, fine. Like, why do we keep talking about this? You know, Jake's not used to not talking about himself. So I can understand how this date's going. And then all of a sudden this dude appears out of nowhere, and then she's real obtuse about who he is. Says it's her uncle, but we know that guy's dressed like a cop. This is the big reveal that she's a cop in this episode. But I think even 11-year-old me on Christmas morning was like, this fucking narc over here. I smell bacon. So we find out that she's in school to bust a fake ID ring. Those are rampant, I guess. That's hence why this episode's called 21 Jake Street as opposed to 21 Jump Street. If you don't know that reference, I don't want to explain it to you. It will make me feel old.
Just know that it was Johnny Depp. That's all you need to know.
It was. And then it was a reboot that was like kind of better than it should have been. So, you know, credit where credit's due. There was a line here where she was like, the guy, I guess her senior officer was asking her. It was basically the Martin Sheen to Leonardo DiCaprio in The Departed that was saying, are you getting too emotionally involved with this child? And he's like, you know, you can't do that, but not because you'll be charged with rape, but you will be hurting the sanctity of this case. Basically, we'll have
to take you off. You're going to invalidate it, and we got to get someone else.
Through the poisonous tree. Statutory be damned. She was like, love is love.
She's like googly eyeing at him like,
So we're gonna go back. I don't know why I have a note here. I don't think I broke it up properly, but I was like, is Tony mentally handicapped?
But there were a few times where like the goofy things he does,
I think
just like they turn him into a caricature or something.
He's such a good character actor. I mean, he's like a good physical actor, I should say. That when the storyline doesn't call for him to be deep or emotional, which doesn't happen a lot, but it has happened, he just overplays this for the kids, you know? So he comes in and he tries to, I think, do a bust or something. He tries to he just completely destroys whatever apparatus he's working on. So yeah, it's not like really just funny. Yeah. And, but yeah, that was my only note for that scene, is totally mentally handicapped. And that's how he's playing it, I think. Anyway, so we go back to Sharky's, and Michelle takes this weird interest in Sly because apparently he knows who the supplier is of the fake IDs. She hands him money. I don't know if you saw how much she handed him. She handed him 5 bills. Do we think that's $50? Do we think it's $100? Do we think what could 5 bills be? I mean, this is like an endless math question. Still, It just
We're trying to figure out the cost of a single fake ID.
I was hoping you stupid millennial, would know how much fake IDs go for, but you don't. You have no information for me.
I wasn't one of those cool kids. Like I'm the wrong demographic for that, man.
God
like
damn it.
you gotta get one of your cool, I don't know.
Am I going to Google this because I'm old? How much does a fake ID cost?
It's got to be like $500. There's no way anyone is making one for.
Well, you know what? We're going to go to Quora because that's the definite authority on that.
I bet ChatGPT has some good answers.
Oh, somebody actually answered like what a fake passport would cost in India in 2002. I'm like, that is not what I'm looking for.
And that's very specific.
Yeah, that's
very hyper specific.
Give me a fucking answer. I'm just gonna.
I mean, there's no way I would risk my livelihood for making a fake ID for less than $100. Like
Okay, fake IDs go from anywhere between $200 to $400 now. So my idea was that like I thought it was like $100 to get a fake ID back then, but I remember in the Saved by the Bell episode it was something really cheap. It's like $20 per ID. So I would say maybe $50 back then would be that, and that would be around $110 today. So that sounds right. That's what you would scam a kid on, and then the second they went to some kind of venue that was like, fuck you, this is fake, and then they take it. Because that's what we used to do at some of the bars I worked at. We would take it in the back and we would post it to the wall. So that kid's out of fucking $100.
Yeah. Or $200 to $400 now.
I should get a fake ID now because I didn't get to go through this growing up. I don't.
You should, you should just do it. Let's start a Patreon for it.
Nothing like me.
You can use my photo. That frozen photo.
So similar now. Anyway, so in this scene, Michelle says something. Okay, I actually laughed at this. There was 2 points in this episode. Utah, get me 2. There was 2 points that I actually laughed at, and one of this was this line delivery where she was like, "Oh, maybe I've been hanging out with the wrong guy," meaning Jake, and now she wants to hang out with Sly, and then Sly immediately says, "Like that's what most of my dates tell me." Which I love. He delivered it so well.
He was so convinced that they said it the same way she was saying it.
And I think Sly would totally cross this line too. Like he's such a sociopath. He has no qualms. Like even later as he meets up with Jake, he's like, "Yeah, dude, I fucking stole your girl." Like whatever. Like he doesn't feel that this is wrong. He's just like all's fair in love and babes. It doesn't matter. So anyway, Jake comes in and he's like, "Hey, we got to go to the movie. We got a date." And she's like, "Can't we just wait?" Because and this is where my question is about like how long has she been around? So she gets there, right? And I guess she meets up with Jake. They do rehearsal maybe that day. Then she talks to Sly, and he says, "I'm talking with." Now, follow me. He's talking with the guy tomorrow about the fake IDs, and then after he talks to him, he's like, I think it's the next day. He says, "Well, I'm going to take photos tomorrow, so they'll be done by Friday." So that in itself is like an 8-day week from Monday to Friday. And the
show's Saturday, right?
Did they say Saturday? I was going to ask.
Yeah.
They always say this has happened before, and I think infamously this happened on like the 4th episode or something, and we were just losing our minds because we're like, when could this possibly happen? Like. It didn't make sense. It was this Inception type thing where they've lived lifetimes in this short amount of time. And I'll keep saying that joke until the show stops doing it. Okay. So anyway,
got a feeling we're going to hear that joke a lot.
Yeah. Well, what movie do you think they went to go see? I'm going to give you a list and I want you to tell me what you think because, and this is 2 episodes in a row that they've gone to see a film. So last episode, we know we think Matt took her to see Beethoven 2nd because it's Matt. But this episode, Jake is going. Maybe it's going to be a little you know, a little more mature themed, if you will, like this podcast here at Surf Dudes with Attitude. I don't know if you've seen all these films, Billy, but maybe you can give some insight on what they were going to see. So the list: Tombstone, which I made a joke of earlier, and I totally forgot this was on the list. Grumpy Old Men, The Pelican Brief, or Philadelphia.
The Pelican Brief, for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so just
The
trying to
music?
you know. Well,
The
listen,
music?
all these movies came out before before Christmas on 1993, within 2 weeks of it coming out. So you are so sure you answered that dad movie really quickly. The Pelican Brief is definitely a dad film.
Well, isn't it about a cop though?
Okay,
or
so
like some sort of
comes out
detective
later.
thing?
She was like, "Yeah, you're getting me all hot and bothered because you're taking me to a cop movie."
Yeah.
It's not really about a cop. It sort of is. Sort of. It's
I saw it once when I was like 11. So I've definitely seen Tombstone more times than
I
I've
think
seen
this is-
Pelican Brief.
I think this is a John Grisham thing. It's very long. Stanley
Yeah.
Tucci has hair in it. It's very upsetting to see that. This was also like one of the movies that like they cut an entire romance out because they said people aren't ready for an interracial romance in film. So,
In 93.
but it's still like 2.5 hours long. It's like a very long film, if I'm not mistaken. It's at least 2 hours, but it feels long because it's very, it's boring. It's very boring, but it's not bad. Basically, Julia Roberts, I think she steals a brief from work that's fraud, or she's uncovered something and now they're after her. And I think Denzel Washington is a cop, so that would make the movie, I guess. I was really hoping it was Philadelphia because what an uplifting film they could have gone to see together.
Would have been perfect for the evening, really setting the mood.
But when she was trying to get Jake to go to this, you know, she kept trying to like make Sly come along because she needs to see who's suppliers. And then Jake's like, Sly has a car. And like, you're not privy to the show. But I ask our listeners, like, what fucking car does Sly have? You know, it's never been mentioned. Sly did buy the band van for them. So is he like Sam's Hot Car Lot kind of situation? Like he just has a bunch of like a fleet of vehicles for these people? We've never seen him drive.
Maybe it's the van. Maybe they just, you know.
We saw him making out with a girl in a car, and it's in one of Matt's it's in one of Matt's like song sequences. There's a montage of everybody, you know, like having somebody except him.
Okay.
It was actually my favorite song of the last season, but it's the most pathetic song by far too. So there's a scene where I guess it's a music video. So I think Sly is like filming himself making out with this girl. It's episode 11. They shoot horses, don't they? Or they shoot videos, don't they? Is what it's called. So, Billy, this is so much information. I'm just trying to pour into you. So,
I'm loving it.
So,
Just throwing another catchphrase out there.
We are going to the garage. Sly is setting up a camera so we can take photos for the fake IDs. And then I don't know if they just forgot to do something, but Sly is looking at the camera and then it takes a photo and then he flinches. But there's no flash on the camera. What the hell?
Yeah.
Department. Come on. But everyone laughs like there is. Stop it.
Matt looks like you're dumb.
Matt looks like he's in a barbershop quartet with this outfit. But I did, speaking of Sly, I noticed, did you see what was on his t-shirt?
I did not.
Well,
catch
he always wears a bitch and blazer, but underneath that is his t-shirt with the cartoon. Rocky and Bullwinkle. Because his last name is Winkle.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That totally makes sense.
You seem upset that it's that dumb that the long walk might not have been worth it.
I was wondering if it was just like they were saying that they were being cartoony and stupid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's like what that was.
Yeah. So
worse.
I mean, it is cartoony and stupid, but much like the Western episode, it's what we're stuck with, and we are talking about it. So Michelle comes in, and she's basically like I guess she's on a deadline, and she really needs to find out who this guy is because, man, this this fake ID ring is running amok. It really
Ruining the town.
They should really crack down on like the people checking these IDs and not the kids getting them. But whatever. But I was really taken aback by this, where Tiffany's not upset at this at all. Like Jake is just like professing his love to this girl, and she's like, "I think I want to fuck Sly instead," and like. Tiffany is just, I don't know what the stage direction was. Like, pretend you've never gone out with Jake. Pretend you aren't in love. Pretend you just didn't have a 2-month anniversary 3 episodes ago. I don't know. I don't know. It seems like a lot for her. And I guess they're in this open relationship, but Jake would never stand to see her date somebody else. So
it's a one-sided open relationship.
Yes. And then I guess that's what's called polyamory. That's like a new term where you tolerate polyamory for one partner. So don't do that, kids.
That sounds unfair. Don't do that, kids.
This is one of the few times in the show where we have a set break, but it's the same set. So there's a commercial break, does a little music cue, and then it comes back. And I guess it's later in the day because they're all wearing the same outfits. I guess this is supposed to be night. Sam and Tiff are so excited about the finished product of their being the model for that they can't wait to look. By this point, Tony has made like a clay bust of it. There's no talk of a kiln.
It doesn't even really look like fully.
That's the other thing. You want to talk about how long this has happened? Like the size of that bust, you're a ceramist.
That would take forever.
That would take
oh my god.
That would take at least 2 to 4 weeks to dry in optimal conditions. So maybe that's why the lead cop is really upset with the lack of her progress. So she's just like going to fucking chemistry class and like going on dates with Jake, and she's not doing her job whatsoever.
She's like, it has been 4 weeks. You guys, I got to get this bust down.
So they end up breaking the bust. Well, we don't know that yet, but they drop it, and then everybody comes in, so they can't see it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, people.
Did you notice that they didn't even put the box back in the way it was when they pulled it out?
Do you think that was on purpose, or do you think that was like a character choice?
That was just a character choice. They were just like dumb, I think.
And it's just so silly that like later Tony doesn't even check this fucking thing. Like,
and he's
so stupid.
It's laying on its side. It's not upright. He's not worried about it at all. Yeah.
So, I mean, just like a housekeeping thing. This is a new closet. We've never seen it before. Just in case you were curious. Okay, so then we go back to the school. And again, this strange dude, pre-Columbine, this guy's just allowed in. And then this is when Jake overhears. Oh, I guess in the last scene, Jake is like, you take Sly, have him, but this is where he overhears that she's officially a cop. And he tells Sly, don't buy fake IDs. It's an entrapment. Anything? You got anything? Or you just drooling over Bimby and Bambi?
I was. They were just mind-blowing.
Are is this like a threesome situation Sly's getting in on? Because
I think they wanted that, and I
don't know what these kids would do with a threesome. I don't think they know the ins and the outs. It's very odd. This is such a trope, though, because like when we were first introduced to Jake, he has 2 girls on his arm as well, and I'm like, what? But you know what? Maybe they're into that, because this line where Sly is like, oh, hey, what's up, Jake? Like, no qualms about stealing his chick. And then he's like, oh, if I knew you were here, I would have let you take Bimby or Bambi. And then Jake weirdly sexually says, I don't want your leftovers.
Yeah.
It's so awful.
So awful. Right outside the bathroom, just like, I don't want your leftovers, man. That's
gross.
They're Bimby and Bambi. I know what they've been doing. He already knows.
You think the parents of Bimby and Bambi named them to be like bimbos? I get that these are silly playmate names, and it's supposed to be like these girls are airheads, but like somebody actually named their kid Bimby Like,
That was.
what is that short for something?
There's no way.
Short for bibliography?
Bimbalina. Bimbalina. Like.
That's not a word.
Don't tell me that.
So we go to Sharky's art show, Shart, if you will.
Well, so I have a question about this.
Okay.
Why are they doing the school's art show in Sharky's?
Why is anything at everything's at Sharky's? They could have easily done this in. Well, you know what? I don't think so. Normally, they could have easily done it in another place, but they're too lazy to make another set. I think in this one, it's so they can. Somebody who works at Sharky's can also be the supplier of these fake IDs. So, that should answer every single question you've ever had about California Dreams. Okay. So Tony in this scene is called Anthony, which is I don't know if we've heard that before. 2 episodes ago, he was called Antoine. So they
called him all 3 names in this episode.
Oh, they did. Okay,
they did. I forget who the teacher calls him. Antoine.
I think he's okay. I think that's because he's this teacher, of course, is French. And he opens up the box, and wouldn't you know it, the bust is broken, but it's only like half broken. And then the teacher is like, "Oh, this is some abstract, beautiful work. You get best in show." So, wow.
And he gives him a purple ribbon. And then he's like, "I got the blue ribbon."
And then we see whatever Matt did, and he just drew Sam's lips real big. That's the joke. I did want to mention that Michelle is played by. She had a small role in the movie Rounders. Came out in 1998, so a few years after this. She was playing one of the prostitutes, and ironically, in the scene, she asked Matt Damon and Edward Norton if they're undercover cops. I can't help but think that she was thinking in that moment, like, I'm getting typecast. This is it. She has one line in the whole film, and that's it. She's like, "You guys cops?" And then she was like, "Do you want to twirl?" She asked them after that. So the range on this girl, I love it. So we finally see who's the supplier. His name is Ken. He works in the back. I guess this is his. I mean, this illegal ID ring that's taking off is not paying the bills, so he needs to also have a day job. As kind of a cover.
No, he's undercover.
What?
He doesn't work there. Sly is like, "Oh, you're undercover?"
I think it was a joke, Billy.
Well, I'm sorry if I didn't get the one joke in the episode.
Actually, I don't know. You may be right. I zone out whenever there's goofy antics. But Ken doesn't come back as a character, but the actor does. In the 4th season, he plays a completely different role. So we'll have you back on that episode, Billy. Don't forget me. So anyway, the cop comes in and he's like, "Oh, like." Who's Sly meeting with? And they're like, "Wait a minute, the kitchen's closed." So maybe that would mean that he's undercover. Sly has the line about like, "Can I get a hot dog with that?" Does he say hot dog or does he say hamburger? French fries. That's not a bad line.
Yeah. It was actually a pretty decent line for the moment.
Okay. The only other line I laughed at was when they're looking to beat the guy over the head with something, and they try to grab Tony's bust, and he's like, "This one a blue ribbon."
yeah.
That was it. But we got an LPE, which is what we call laugh per episode. So this episode had 2 LPEs for me. Anyway, so they catch the guy. They break him open with Matt's portrait, which I guess is combining these plots. There's a framing joke, of course, and then Jake starts talking to Michelle about like, "Oh, that's why you're an undercover cop. That's why you couldn't like smooch on me." And then she's like, "Well, it's not because of that, basically." Basically she was saying, "I can't get too close to the case, I'll get taken off the case and I really care." And then she tells she tells the whole crew, she's like, "We'll drop the charges if you all promise never to get fake IDs." Which I've seen a lot of Law and Order, and I think that's how it operates. Jake does kiss Michelle. It's definitely breaking the law. But you know what?
Only statutory rape.
Bill Clinton was on Office playing a saxophone. It was just a different time, everybody.
Yeah.
And then so they got their man, and the dreams learned a valuable lesson. And I guess Jake is like, look me up in a couple years when I'm legal. So creepy. We never see her again. She's never in this episode. She's never in this show.
She went to jail. Yeah, she went to jail for
a prostitute. Jail. So anyway, that's the end of the episode. That is the 14th episode of California Dreams, season 2, 21 Jake Street. We actually got some band stuff in this episode. So quickly, do you want to give out some awards, Billy? Do you remember? Oh, you don't remember because the last episode had 0 band stuff. But... So we have some awards we give out on the show. We have what's called the Tony, which is the person that mimed the instrument best while playing. The Jenny, which is the person that mimed it the worst. And then we have the Tiffy, which is somebody you'd want to be in a band with. Could be anybody, just based on like how cool they were in the episode. So quick fire. Give me your 3 awards.
I would give Jake the Tiffy. He's cool.
Okay. The tapping.
Yeah.
Oh, you want wait, Jake the Tiffy. Give me your Tony first.
Give me Tony. That's mimicking.
Yeah, best mimed. It looked like they were actually playing there.
We're gonna say Sam. Sam, I think. Yeah.
Really? I would see her play.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, fair enough. What about Jenny? This one might be difficult. Sometimes we have a lot of Jennies to give out, but like this one, everyone's like doing pretty well. So, who would you give the Jenny award to?
Jenny's the worst, right?
Yeah,
Tony.
He did the clicks. What are you talking about?
That was like, yeah, but it even felt kind of like off time.
I mean, this was definitely like. Those were processed drums. Those were electronic drums that he was playing. So
yeah.
Okay. I mean, hey, to each their own. Who would you give your Tiffy award? Could be anybody.
That's wanting them in my band, right? Like being a band with them. Jake, for sure. Yeah.
You want Jake in your band? Okay.
Yeah,
I'll tell him. We're friends now. I can tell him that. So
tell him he's got to wear that Chris Cornell outfit, though.
I will.
It's like mandatory.
Okay. He's a big fan of layers that we found out. So Swamp Ass Summers, coming back to it. And so I guess I would give I'm only going to give I'll give my Tony to Jake because he did the tappy, and I was really surprised at that. So I will give my Jenny to Matt.
Okay.
Only because he missed the pre-course. Otherwise, it was fucking solid. And this is like one that I'm begrudgingly giving out. But like Matt did, he missed the G to the A. All right. And I guess who I'd most want to be in a band with? I guess Ken. Because like he could help us get into better shows. You know?
Yeah.
When I was young, he could actually before he got fucking busted by this narc. That he'd be a good guy to have. That's all. And sometimes I say sly, but he was a little backstabby in this episode, so I can't give it to him on this one. So
yeah.
Anyway, do you want to guess the episode plot for the next one, Billy?
Oh God. The plot for the next episode.
What are you afraid? Were you a coward? You don't want to do it?
I just can't even imagine what.
Well, I'm going to tell you.
I'm going next. Like,
I'm going to tell you.
What are we being?
I'm going to tell you the title. I'm going to tell you the title. Okay.
Okay.
It's called "Can't Buy Me Love."
Okay, so then it's Jake trying to get Jenny. Or wait,
Jenny's gone. So
not Jenny,
Tiffany,
right?
Okay.
Tiffany, right?
All right.
Trying to get her back, right? Because they had some sort of relationship. They were like 2 months, right? Is that the relationship?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think because of this debacle, he's trying to.
Oh, that's hilarious. You think that there's some continuity here. You can't be more wrong about this. The gang participates in a school fundraiser where students are auctioned off as servants to whichever classmate is the highest bidder. Sly tries to win over this beautiful but snobby Charge. I think they messed this line up in IMDb. So I guess Sly tries to win over a snobby girl.
Okay.
While Matt inadvertently becomes Tony's boss. Now, the screenshot to this is just Tony in a shirt that says servant, which I find a little unsettling.
Yeah.
We're going to find out what happens next week on the 15th episode of California Dreams in the second season. So this has been Surf Dudes with Attitude. You guys can check us out at surfdudeswithattitude.com. You can support the show on Patreon at CaliforniaDreamsPodcast.com. And you can write to us at surfdudeswithattitude.com, at gmail.com. You get the idea. You know, we're back here. I'm back from Nashville. We got a lot of fun stuff planned. We got a lot of great content down there. We did an in-person episode, and we have a special end of the season stinger for everyone to watch. It was nice getting to see you again, Billy. Did you like this episode more than the other one? Now that we got to talk it through?
I mean, I'm glad that I got the musical aspect of it and actually got to see the band.
Sure, yeah.
You know,
me too.
I could have gone without the racist stuff and the hyper, like toxic masculinity. But
there was racist stuff in this episode?
Oh, for sure.
Did I miss that?
A few moments. Yeah. Yeah. There were a few moments with.
Well, I mean, in the Old West episode,
at the beginning,
there definitely was. Yeah. So you're saying you like the old episode, but it was a little silly. And this one is definitely quintessential California Dreams, where there's some hijinks, but there's also band stuff. I wish it was a little more balanced to the band stuff, but then again, we're not here to rewrite history. We're just here to talk about it. And
we're recording history and making
why
sure.
Why would I go back and change
the future?
Anything about this show? It's just perfectly written. It looks exactly like Matt's portrait. Okay, it's so anyway,
that felt like a Power Rangers kind of reference to go.
Oh yeah,
off topic. Yeah, the color scheme that they used.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah.
I think there's probably, if you do a deep dive, there's definitely like a 6 degrees of separation with Power Rangers, with the people on this show. Like some people had auditioned for that, and they probably all hung out. It was around the same time, so I think they're all having sex with each other. That's right.
I hope so. Oh, man, that sounds like fun. Yeah.
Well, speaking of teenagers having sex, why don't you look me up in a couple years when I'm of legal age and I can finally play at Dizzy Leonard's. But until that happens, this is Pete out of New York City. Everybody drive carefully. And thanks again for listening to Surf Dudes with Attitude. Thank you for coming on, Billy.
Thanks for having me.
This has been a Waning Moon production.